This video is sponsored by Friendly TV. With over 40 channels, many of them showing your favorite classic TV shows, Friendly TV is the low-cost streaming service for those of us who remember when television was truly special. I've added a link to Friendly TV in the description section of this video. When you use it to try it out free for 7 days, you will also be supporting this channel. Growing up, I was a huge fan of the original version of Star Trek. Yep, I was that kid who raced home from school each weekday so that I could catch the show when it played in the afternoons at 4 p.m. I was too young to watch Star Trek when it originally aired on NBC during the 60s. However, because the show experienced such a revival through the syndicated market, I got to know every single episode by heart through repeated viewings and by reading James Blish's fantastic adaptations in those old Bantam paperbacks. Star Trek XI was the very first one that I purchased. I can still remember plunking down my $1.25 on the counter at Irv's Market, and Irv telling me that he was a Star Trek fan too. Irv Cleverly was a heck of a great guy, and the memories that I have of him in his little corner store, well, I better save them for another video. Let's talk about this whole banning thing instead. After all, that's why you clicked on that thumbnail. The original version of Trek, with its groundbreaking stories and diverse cast, well, it pushed boundaries in the 1960s. But across the pond, the BBC had different ideas about what was appropriate for audiences, primarily children. So let's boldly explore the 4 episodes that were banned by the BBC. The first banned episode is Miri, Season 1, Episode 8. This episode features the crew visiting a planet inhabited by childlike humanoids who are actually ruthless adults. Following the first screening of Miri on British television in December of 1970, the BBC reported that they had received an unusually large number of complaints regarding that particular episode. According to Wikipedia, when Star Trek was rebroadcast on the BBC during the mid-80s, when viewers inquired about Miri and the 3 other episodes that I will talk about shortly, this was their canned response. There are no plans to screen the 4 episodes because we feel that they deal most unpleasantly with the already unpleasant subjects of madness, torture, sadism, and disease. Alright, let's move on. Now, this next one is a bit of a double whammy. Plato's Stepchildren, Season 3, Episode 10, features the first interracial kiss on American television. While certain regions in the U.S. voiced their concerns about this episode, the BBC's ban likely stemmed from the completely different issues that were addressed in their mid-80s response to Trek fans. Next up, we have The Empath, Season 3, Episode 12. This episode features a race of merciless aliens who use Kirk and his colleagues as guinea pigs in their experiments into the human aptitude for self-sacrifice. The real victim, though, is an empath, a woman with the ability to absorb other people's pain. While the psychological torment might seem tame today, I guess the BBC found it too disturbing for viewers. And lastly, we have Whom Gods Destroy, Season 3, Episode 14. In this episode, Kirk and Spock go on a mercy mission when they beam down onto a planet to take medical supplies to an asylum. However, they fall into the hands of Garth, a demented inhabitant who has the power to change his form and who possesses the ultimate explosive. While I'm sure the BBC's issues with this episode were more of what has already been discussed, being deprived of this episode for decades is such a shame. Why, you ask? Well, because this episode was graced with the presence of one of TV's all-time beauties. Yep, I'm talking about the lovely Yvonne Craig. I've got to think that Yvonne filmed this episode right after wrapping up her work on the 3rd season of Batman. What a year 1968 had to be for her, and of course, for her fans. Hey, in just a minute I'm going to share some classic television commercials with Star Trek actors in them, so stick around. But first, let me put a bow on this whole banning conversation by saying that it is important to remember that these censorship standards were from a more conservative time, not just in Britain, but pretty much everywhere. And it's also important to remember that one of Gene Roddenberry's mandates for the show was to challenge traditional thinking. I think it's fair to say that the original Star Trek series, as well as its various follow-up iterations, successfully answered Gene's call. Thankfully, by the 1990s, All 4 of these episodes were finally aired by the BBC. And at long last, Trekkies everywhere got a chance to witness the Yvonne Craig experience. Holy cow, those Orion slave girls were something else. Fortunately, Arena, the episode with the Gorn, was never banned, at least to my knowledge. Another great episode for sure, and I've got a ton to say about that one, but I'll save it for another video. So what do you think? Are you surprised that the BBC banned those 4 episodes of Trek for decades? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that little thumbs up button, maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. I talk about music, movies, and mostly TV from decades gone by. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
Hello out there. I'm Mr. Sulu of Star Trek. When I'm out in space, I use the Starship Enterprise to get around. When I'm here in Milwaukee, I ride the bus to save time and money. Your $5 weekly pass is a great buy. Your bus tickets, the greatest. Take it from a man who knows. Your Milwaukee County transit system is really out of this world.
Come ride with us on the bus.
Science and nature. How many chambers are there in a human heart?
How should I know? I'm an actor, not a doctor.
The Trivial Pursuit 10th Anniversary Edition. Is anyone not playing this game?
Hi, I'm Chris, and this is Anna with MCI. She recently started a great friends and family calling circle.
A group of friends that wanted to get back in touch.
I believe I actually said we should resume communicating.
And Anna called me.
Then I signed up.
I joined next.
Then she called me. Then him. She obviously saved the best for last.
Oh, that's why she called me next.
I believe you're in the wrong circle.
Who's that?
There seems to be some error.
Call and start saving an extra 20% on calls to your own friends and family circle.